that $37,000 will always stick with me because I dated someone who basically said, you don't make enough money for me and I cannot date you. I want to introduce someone who I have been watching grow over these past couple of years, Just therapist turned money mindset coach, who is out here cultivating a community of women who want to make lasting changes with their money. Hey, girl.
Hi, I'm so excited. You're talking and I'm like, I've been watching you.
It's so crazy, like how we're going. How are you?
I'm good. I said it before, I'm sleepy, but I'm grateful. And so it's like there's with every season, with anything that you're trying to do, there's going to be two sides to it. And so I think that I'm really learning more and more to find gratitude in every single season and every single step of the journey. And so my kid didn't sleep the last couple of nights and I'm like, this isn't going to last forever. I need to enjoy it while it's here because it's going to change. And so I'm happy to be here. I'm super excited to chat because I think it's going to be a great conversation.
Yes, thank you. Shout out to you and having a baby. I am not there yet. And I'm just like, I love my niece and my nephews, but I'm just like, I can send them back. I don't know how you do it. You're like super mom. I always see you with your child, and he's like either in your background or you're holding him. I'm just like, I'm not there yet. Bless you. So I just want
No,
to say
live your best life. Look, I've been telling people enjoy the sleep, enjoy the free time, enjoy eating by yourself, just enjoy all of it while you can.
I'm definitely going to try. So we're going to jump right in. And I want to ask, as a single person, I talk about how debt-free journey is difficult. Like it's not easy to do on your own. Was it easier for you to do it with a partner, or did you do most of it on your own?
So the bulk, I started 2017. I became debt-free 2020. So 2017, 2018, me and my partner moved in together and got things going. So it was bulk by myself, like the beginning and, really the majority. I paid off like the last bit of things when we were together. I will say it depends. If it depends on the
Okay.
person, you know what I mean? I think for me, it was easy to do while I was by myself, just
Mhm.
because I didn't have anything else to think about. I didn't have anyone else to think. I didn't have to consider anyone else in my decisions, or, there wasn't like, we want to go on a family vacation or whatever. It was just me, nose to the ground. Get
Yeah.
When I got off work, I could just sleep. Like when I tell you just go to sleep, like, you know what I'm saying? So I think that to me, it felt easier while I was by myself because I could be selfish. If
Yeah.
I order out, if I needed, like, I could just be selfish in whatever way that looked like for me. Having
Mhm.
like a bonus daughter, a husband, and now a
Yeah.
baby, I think that unless your whole family is on board and you have like structures in place for you to be able to have some of the same luxuries as you can when you're single, you have to take other people into consideration. Like you might be tired, but your kids still want to watch Cobra Kai. Like you might be sleepy, but your partner still wants your attention. And so I think that for me, it was easier to start and do the most of it by myself.
Yeah.
But I will say my husband is super supportive. So it's not like we were on the same page. So if there's something that I need to do or whatever, he's down
Down
100%.
for it.
Right. And so some people are in relationships and they're not on the same page with each other on like what they want to do or how they want to do it. And I think that can
Yeah.
be challenging. But I think that the number one thing I can say is we just have to like not see the grass being greener on the other side. If you're single and
Mhm.
you're like, oh, it's easier for people in relationships to pay off debt, that's your brain. If you're in a
Yeah.
relationship and you're like, oh, it'd be easier if I was single, it's your brain. Like,
That's my
regardless.
brain. Oh my gosh, that's my brain. That's literally you're talking to me right now. So let me say, um, I always say like, oh, I feel like this journey is harder because I'm like doing it on my own. But I think you said something so profound immediately, just saying I could be selfish. And the reality was like on my like paying off $41,000 worth of debt, I needed to be selfish. I was out hustling a lot. So there was when I really think about it, there was no true space for even me to fully have a relationship. And the one that I did have, we weren't on the same page. So it ended. But I'm just like, maybe the grass isn't greener on the other side, especially during the journey when it's your debt. It's not like you guys accumulated the debt together. When it's your debt, it's like, this was my time to be selfish. So Damn, that was good already. You already said it. Like I didn't see it that way, but I'm realizing that I probably should. Like it's I would have had to have a whole bunch of other decisions on that other side with someone else and a partner that I did not have to make while I'm by myself.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm telling
Mm,
you. But
that's good.
all perspective, you know what I mean?
Yes. So, how do you what tips would you give someone cuz I know you literally just said sometimes people aren't on the same page when it comes to debt. So, for couples who are together, what tips would you give them to be on the same page when it comes to a debt-free journey?
I think when it comes to just money and vision in general, we have to kind of back ourselves out of the activity, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, to really see things from an aerial view. And what's really interesting is like when the new year begins, people are like vision boards and like New
Mhm.
Year's goals and resolutions. But I feel like I don't see as often people talking about their vision as a couple, as opposed to one's individual goals and or your vision as a family as opposed
Mhm.
to your specific goals or your professional goals. And so I think that as a couple, if you've decided to do life together, then you want to be creating a vision together that includes your individual goals, and you want to be revisiting that vision to continue to make connection
Yeah.
to the things that you're doing, the activity, because it's be, do, have, right? And so
Mhm.
if there's a disconnect between, you know, the debt-free journey and like how they want to execute it, or if one person doesn't really care or isn't as invested as the other, I think that to me is an issue of vision. We're
Yeah.
not aligned as far as what we see because
Yeah.
I see it one way and you see it another way. And so we're working from whatever it is that we can see in front of us or what we see down the line. And so you have to take a step back as a couple and make sure that you're taking the time to sit and have a conversation about what you want to see in your lives 1 3 5 years 10 20 whatever, what your legacy you want it to be. How what you're doing now will directly either help you make progress toward that or hold you back from that. And then sometimes it's just a pacing issue. So one person wants to go really fast and the other person
Mhm.
is taking it a little slower. And so we're going to have to figure out, it's like a tandem bike. We're going to have to figure
Mhm.
what pace makes it so that we can both like ride the bike and not be like jerking back.
Yeah. We're about to fall off.
So to me, it really sounds like if someone's not on the same page, it's an issue of vision. Are we taking the
Mhm.
time regularly to have a conversation and then finding ways to remind ourselves throughout the journey about like where we're headed and what we get to do
Yeah.
as a family and as individuals? If my partner really loves travel, well, us being able to hit this goal makes it so that we can travel more. And so it's
Yeah.
connecting the dots for everyone involved, so we understand that the activity is directly going
Mhm.
to help or hinder the vision coming into fruition.
I love how like I you're so calm. I see like the therapist in you and how it just goes and I'm just like, yeah, yeah, because the vision is so important and in my last like real relationship, our visions did not match and it was arguments all of the time. And I was the person to say like, okay, we're not going to work and he wanted to keep going and I'm just like our visions don't match. And I'm a firm believer as a woman, and I know I'm going a little off, but women and vision and letting your man lead. Like, I'm a woman who, if I see my man has a great vision, I can submit to that vision, especially if it aligns with what I want to do and who I want to be. And that was a relationship where I could not do that at because we were just two totally different individuals. And it lasted a year before I had to say, we're not on the same page. I don't think we even want to be on the same page. And our mindsets are totally different. So I had to like disperse. But I probably should have had that conversation a lot earlier, right? Like, do you think it's important to have that vision conversation? Like, is it ever too early to talk about vision and finances and money?
To me, no.
No. Okay.
This again might be a perception thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: money and vision, they dictate, not dictate, they influence
Hmm.
how we walk in the world, regardless of
Hmm.
whether it's date one or date 75.
Very true.
So if there are, let's say, pillars of influencers in our lives, if we are dating now, it depends on the purpose of the dating. So I'll say that,
Hmm.
right? Are we dating for fun just because we are having a good time? Are we dating because we are interested in entertaining something more serious? Are we dating sole purpose is to have something serious, whatever
Yeah.
that. And so I think first, again, we have to walk ourselves back to say, well, what's the reason that I'm dating or that I'm interested in, you know what I mean, being with someone in the first place? Because if it's
Yeah.
just fun, then we may not have to have a conversation about vision
Mm-mm.
because the goal isn't for us to intertwine our lives together.
Yeah.
But if the goal is potential seriousness, or I know that right now I want to find the person that I want to do life with right now, then essentially you're saying you want to intertwine, you want to braid your life
Mhm.
with someone else's life. And money and vision have to do with that. So does, you know what I mean, intimacy and values. And so it's like we're not just talking about money and vision, we're talking about a whole bunch of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I think each of us has to be authentic. And hopefully, we're also having the conversation from a place of abundance, not from a place of scarcity. So I'm not bringing up this
Mhm.
conversation as like, what's your credit is? Sorry, because I'm coming from a place that I, dated somebody who was a deadbeat or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I also want the conversation to come from the right place.
Yeah, I think it's important, right? And you said it, like, making sure you're dating for the right reasons, because every time I date, I'm very intentional on who I pick. So I never find it too early to have the money conversations because my friends always like get on me like, "Oh, you don't date multiple people." I'm like, "I don't. I do like I got to get to know one person. It's just who I am." But I date with intentionality in mind to say that if I'm dating you, it's not just for a fun time because I'm not that type of woman. I literally probably see something with you, but understanding that sometimes it just doesn't match and like that's okay. But I feel personally, it's never too early to talk about money and vision. I want to know what you see for the future, what you see for the next 2 years, the next year. And I think those conversations, we kind of miss those because we don't want to feel like, oh, I'm bringing too much pressure, probably. But I'm applying pressure from the beginning. I know
Okay, listen, to each their own. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm with you on that. Because I just when I was dating my husband, I was in a
Mhm.
place that like I had been through some things. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, at this point, I'm cool with being by myself. Like, I don't have
Mhm.
to be with a person. And
Mhm.
because of that, right, it did come from a place of abundance that I was able to just be honest and authentic
Yeah.
about any and everything that was on my mind. And that included money. And because of that, it made our relationship closer. It made it easier for us to build intimacy, not physical intimacy, but like closeness in our relationship
Yeah.
because we could just be honest and open with each other. And if I can't have conversations with you now, how am I supposed to have certain conversations with you later? If I have an expectation or if I'm okay with doing certain things with you now, how can I? Money is an intimate conversation. So if we're saying we're
Very.
not going to talk about money, we're saying that we can't have intimacy in this way.
Yeah.
So I could be intimate with you in other ways. I'm willing to exchange saliva, but I'm not willing to have a
Can we
conversation.
talk about that? Because I feel like it's so weird that we're in a space now where I can know all things sexual about you, but you don't want to share like your salary, your job, what your credit is like. And I'm just like, but you're willing to do all the things? Like, is this just a fun time for you then? Because you obviously don't care about
Or
anything
it's
else.
just well, the thing is it may also just be new and different for
Oh,
them. You know what I
okay.
mean? It's so
Yeah.
depending on the person, right? For some
Yeah.
people, it is just a fun time, but it may also be that this person has never had a conversation about money like this. They never grew, if they didn't grow up talking about money or comfortable with money or comfortable with conversation at all, there might be certain things that come up for them when they talk about money that they didn't even know was there and they don't know how to handle it. So I think that it
Yeah.
depends too on like someone's upbringing and their willingness to work through something that's uncomfortable. And that's why to me, again,
Oh,
depending on why you're dating, it's going to be a testament to how you will be able to manage things in your relationship later on when you start dealing with discomfort in the beginning. Like,
I love that because I think when I'm thinking back now, I can see the shame in not having on the inside, but looking like you have on the outside. Especially, I'm someone who grew up in the hood, like the ghetto of Brooklyn, and where I live, you see a lot of women and men who have like the designer things and all of the things that make them look rich, but on the inside they have no idea how to handle money, no idea about finances. They may not even have a dollar saved. And I think it's important to understand, or if you really love someone, like probably try to meet them where they are. Because now that I'm in like the financial space, oh, I'm talking about money because I talk about it every day. So for me, it's not an uncomfortable conversation, but I'm all about perspective and saying this person doesn't see it as the way I see it, and I need to be receptive to that and probably
Mhm.
like meet them in the middle.
Yeah, and that's why depending on the situation, it's like what can we do to facilitate our relationship being a place where discomfort is okay. Where if I am ashamed or if I don't know like how to say certain things or what, how can we
Yeah.
cultivate this environment in our relationship being a place where I can come to you vulnerably or raw or uncut, you know what I mean? Unpolished
Yeah.
and fumble my way through the conversation. Be
Yeah.
comfortable through the conversation. Have the discomfort. Like it takes practice when you have to talk about it, but for some people, some things don't get comfortable. Like I have been public speaking forever. Still to this day,
Mhm.
before this conversation, I was nervous. Like
Yeah.
it ain't gone away yet. Okay, thousands of hours later.
It's still
But
there.
right. I'm just okay with putting myself in an environment that I know is going to stretch me. And I
Mhm.
trust that I am choosing the environments that it's okay for me to not necessarily be like perfect and I have to be this expert. And I'm, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, or what I trust that you have a podcast where I can be myself and authentic. And if I
Yeah.
fumble on my words or if I, switch up something that I say, that it's not going to be the end of the world. And so
Yeah.
I think that it's a testament of, okay, in our relationship, like how do we handle challenges and discomfort depending on why we're dating in the first place? But again,
Yeah.
if we're willing to do certain things together, then we might, want to consider being able to do other uncomfortable things together. But it's not for me to say
Yeah.
either way.
It's an interesting topic and conversation because I've dealt with both sides of having a man who was vulnerable enough to share his experiences with money with me, and the guy that I was dating for a year, like my boyfriend. It was a very challenging conversation all of the time, and I think you'll find your way in understanding when okay, our visions seem to like they're never going to align, and that's okay. I don't think people are bad people when your vision doesn't align with them, when they feel like the relationship is not working. Like, I would rather find out early and say, like, let's end this on a great foot than to go years down the line. And I'm like, we're still having the same argument from when we met like 3, 4 years ago. Like it's okay to move on. And like I said, there's nothing wrong in seeing like we just don't align. But how do you feel about like when it comes to combining finances? Because let me tell you why. I'm a giver. Okay, I am a helper. I am an empath. I am very honest about that. It is like a fault of mine. And when I was dating, I created an account together with my boyfriend. And it was our space to say, okay, he's in debt, I'm in debt. We're gonna try to get out of the situation. And I was the person who would put most, it was our dating account, right? So I would put like most of the money in the dating account, and he'd put like maybe 25% of what I was putting because he had more debt than me and I was making more than him. And I would say, okay, what you were supposed to be putting, you don't have to put because I would rather you put towards debt. 4 to 5 months come down the line. I'm like, oh, how's the debt payments going? Oh, I've never made them. Oh, so I'm just paying for all the dates and you're not. What are you doing with the extra money that was supposed to be happening? So I kind of like chopped that off really quickly. We decided to cut off the finances. But how do you feel about combining finances?
Again, I think, and it's funny because me and my husband have this conversation regularly when we talk about
Yeah.
just relationships, is that I feel like we get kind of conditioned or programmed to pick up like programmed, like pre-cut relationship stuff,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's absolutely necessary that each constellation, each couple takes the time to figure out what's going to work best for them and has a conversation around boundaries and checks and balances, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I personally wouldn't combine my like bank accounts or finances with someone until I was married, because I don't know if I've ever talked about this publicly, but there was a time, right, as a giver, right? There was a time where I was with somebody who had asked me for money, and I would oftentimes, when I was able, give him money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's like, if we don't take, this is why we want to talk about money while we're dating, because if we don't get clear on like what the boundaries are, and not boundaries
Mhm.
as far as like limitation goes, but like boundaries are a courtesy and a kindness we do for ourselves and others. So if
Very.
we don't have clear boundaries up front on what goes, then on the back end it could turn into resentment when things don't turn out the way that we thought they were going to turn out, but we never talked blatantly and overtly about what our expectation was. So I think that if someone wants to, combine finances, whether married or not, there still has to be a conversation about what
Mhm.
each person's expectations are, what each person, is willing to do or comfortable with or uncomfortable with, but willing to try anyway, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because everything isn't going to be comfortable all the time. That's life.
Mhm.
But I think the clarity of having an outline on what things are going to look like for us in our relationship is key. And then the checks and balances come in when we say we review this weekly, monthly,
Yeah.
quarterly, annually, because people's feelings might change, circumstances might change. And so I think that we have to consider it's, when I say all this out loud, it sounds like a lot of work. But guess what? Like,
It
I don't
gotta
know.
get done.
I don't know what to tell you.
I
Relationships
love
are
the
work.
honesty. You're like, it's work. It has to get done regardless. Like, if you're gonna be in it, you might as well.
Yeah.
You
So
have
I would
to.
say I can't sit here and say everyone, if they're in a relationship, needs to do fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to sit down with each other to get clear on what that looks like for them and be open to understanding that it could change and be flexible to revisit those conversations over and over again as life evolves, so that you can adjust along the way.
I love that. And I love the idea that it's not cookie cutter. And I think we think it is because I think a statistics came out not too long ago saying that, oh, 56% of people who combine their finances usually stay together longer. Well, that can be for a number of reasons, right? That can be because I can't afford to live on my own. That could be, or I have too much debt to do anything else, or I'm tied with you, or you make the most money and I don't. Like, I saw that statistic. I was just like, can we get the full story behind this? But the idea that you have to sit down because, like you said, people change, their views change. Like, I'm sure you're not the same descent you were 3 years ago, right? Or when you first met your husband, you're probably not the same descent then. Like, as we continue to learn and grow, like, we're going to evolve. But I think it's important to have that consistency, like you said, of just sitting down, having the conversation, being able to be vulnerable, which I don't think a lot of people are able to do. Which I kind of pride myself on allowing people to just have that space, but it's people don't always want to take the space that you give them either. Like it's difficult. Like you have to, it's checks and balances. You have to meet people where they are. But I combined my balances once and my check, and I was just like, it wasn't for me. And you have, like you said, you have to just kind of see what works for you. So what's one of the most difficult things that you feel like you have to teach others as a money mindset coach?
Oh boy. One of the most difficult things that I have to teach, it's really simple, but it's just
Mhm.
that it keeps coming back, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like redirection, constant redirection. So I love this book called Lies We Tell Ourselves, The Psychology of
Mhm.
Self-Deception.
You talk about
And
it all the time. I know. I got to
girl,
read it. I'm like, it got to be on my list.
it's right here, literally. And I have the audiobook because, right? Everything is scarcity or abundance, love or fear.
Mhm.
And what happens is when we're born into abundance. I think abundance is our birthright. We look at
Yeah.
babies and how they act and how they operate in the world. They're entitled, because they see themselves as worthy. We all came
Mhm.
into the world viewing ourselves as worthy until we learned something else, until we were exposed to
Yeah.
something else. And then that became our program. So the constant thing that I have to say and that I echo and that we talk about in my community, and I know like it comes up when I just see people asking questions and whatnot, like on the internet and things like that, is self worth. And so I just have
Yeah.
to constantly remind people to remind themselves of their self worth. We are intrinsically worthy. We are intrinsically valued. You can't get paid what you're worth because you're priceless. You literally cannot get a check cut to pay what your value is. And so net
Oh.
worth, and we talk about money, and we, of course, those things are a part of our experience, but they aren't our identity, and we shouldn't allow our money to make us feel valuable or not. If I have X amount of dollars in the bank account, I would hope to feel just as valuable and worthy as a person as when there's, extra zeros in the account. And so that is to say, for us to be able to be freed up to just be and create and enjoy life and take pressure off of, everything else. Now that's easier said than done.
Mhm.
Okay. And this is why I have to constantly go back and redirect the conversation. And it's because there's these lies that we're telling ourselves. I'm not good enough. No one's going to pay me what I'm worth. Well, no one can pay you what you're worth. I
Yeah.
like there's all of these lies that we have to undo. And so what I'm teaching people is how to be more honest with themselves, how to use the evidence that is in their present life to be honest in their appraisal of their situation. It's not about positive thinking. It's about honest thinking. It's not about negativity. It's that you're telling lies that also hurt your feelings because it's
Yeah.
doubt and it's imposter syndrome. Like, no, those all those things are not true because there's evidence in your reality right now that suggests that that's not the case. So I would say the hardest thing to teach people is to remember to go back, right? To return to their true nature, which is childlike. We're all worthy, we're all
Yeah.
valuable, we're all, capable of being whatever we want, if we're willing to keep showing up.
Oh my gosh. Are you, like, talking to me personally? Because I feel like you're talking to me
I'm talking to
personally.
me too.
Because
Because
I'm like, yeah, I had this conversation even, like, literally today. I texted, like, a couple of my friends, and I'm just like, "I don't feel like I'm doing enough."
Mm,
Like, I don't feel it. And I have battled, I'm being very honest, I have battled with understanding my self-worth as well, probably literally up until today, and I still battle it. Even when it comes to just, like, money, relationships, just conversations like that. And I used to feel embarrassed to, like, tell people, like, yeah, I only made $37,000, or I had like $41,000 worth of debt. It was so much shame behind it. And I say it proudly now, but I'm like, would I really still say that proudly if I was still in that situation? But I say it proudly now because I feel like I beat myself up multiple times for it without just saying, you can actually go have whatever it is you want to have if you believe that you want to have it. Like, it's, and I feel like people think abundance and just say things, and I'm just like, it's really more than that. Like, you have to do the work. But that $37,000 will always stick with me because I dated someone who basically said, "You don't make enough money for me, and I cannot date you. I have to date this person who is making $100,000 a year." And when I tell you that has stuck with me, that probably happened 5 years ago, 6 years ago. That's a conversation where I was just like, someone really crushed my spirits and my life and my heart in a matter of minutes because of my salary without seeing how much I'm worth, not how much money I'm making, but what I am worth. And I was just like, wow.
mm. You know, boy, we're all reflection, right? Everything's a
Mhm.
reflection for us. And when someone says something like that, that's a reflection of their own whatever.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's not about good
Yeah.
or bad or anything. There's no value put on it. It's just that's the reflection of where they are, and like you said, their inability to see your value past a freaking number of like
Yeah.
money. Even the concept of money is weird in the first place. But you know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like that's them. That was them. And
Yeah.
what happens because we're human and because you're an empath, you know what I mean? You feel deeper than typically, and is that when someone brings a reflection to us, I know I personally will then put those glasses on and then I'll leave them on as opposed to saying, "Wait, are these my prescription or are these someone else's prescription? I don't
Yeah.
need these glasses. Let me take these off and let me choose a different style. Let me choose a better." When they do that little thing when you're at the eye doctor and they say
Yeah.
one or two. Okay, one. Okay, two or three. And you're like, "Oh, okay, three." we need to do that for ourselves constantly. And when we're in situations in life, we need to see that that's our opportunity to do that in those situations as well. So he was bringing to you one perspective, and you have the opportunity at that time. Maybe it was challenging to see, like, I'm gonna pick my perspective instead of his perspective.
Yeah.
But
Just saying. Oh my gosh.
now, right, you're in a different place. You can say, wait, I've been using somebody else's prescription this whole time. And that's why my vision has been blurry when it comes to my self worth. Someone listening maybe has used their upbringing or their childhood experiences, stuff that happened to them that was real and maybe painful or hurtful, but you can change and upgrade and update your glasses now. It's okay. It happened before. But now are these the glasses? Is this a prescription that's working for you today? Because our eyes change too. So you
Yes,
go to
they
the doctor
do.
one time, you go back to the doctor you come back after the pandemic, you've been on screens for a little while. Okay. Your prescription might change.
Yeah.
And it's okay to switch your
Oh
glasses
my
out, switch the
gosh.
lenses out, and update it to what makes sense for you now.
I love that. Like, wow. And I don't think we do that enough. Even like men or women, we just don't do that enough to say, this is not mine. We
Mm.
automatically take it on as if it's ours and internalize it. And I think I have internalized that for the past 5 years. And in some way, it made me be the person who is now like, I make more than you.
Yeah.
And like, but I have internalized it so much that it wasn't my vision. It wasn't my perspective. It wasn't anything that had to do with me and everything that had to do with that person and probably whatever it is they were going after or trying to achieve. But just understanding that I should have not felt the shame that I felt because of what someone else told me. And that's just how
You
I'm working through life now.
Yeah, and we can sit here and say it.
Yeah,
Logically, it makes sense, but when you're in the
but
experience, it's a little bit different, right?
it's
And when
different.
we're in the experience, also because many of us don't grow up learning how to navigate relationships, learning how to
Mhm.
fortify ourselves, learning how to, you know what I'm saying? Like make
Yeah,
that decision and not pick up what someone else gives us.
yeah,
That in practice, it's a little bit different. And I'm not exempt from it. Girl, there's things that happened when I was like 5. Then you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like that I still have to say, "Oh yeah, just that remember like you can choose to switch that lens. It doesn't have to be that way anymore." So it happened. I can only speak from my experience and from what I've been able to learn on the outside, but a lot of it does come from also my personal experience and how I've had to learn how to navigate through things. And maybe the things that happened to me, like you said, are a part of why I became this version of myself now. But
Mhm.
then it's like, okay, I can use that thing to fuel me, use the energy as fuel to do whatever I want. But
Yeah.
then at some point, I don't have to forever use that energy to fuel me. So I think that at some point in your life, then
Whoa.
you can put that down and you can use something else to fuel you. And so for me, I know that it was, growing up in my circumstances, people tell you you can't do something. I'm the type of person you tell me I can't do it,
Imma do
baby.
it. Let me show you.
Watch me work, okay? But I that worked for a certain season, but then at some point it was not gonna be the best thing that was gonna help me get to the next level. So I'm like, well, is that the same fuel? Is that the best fuel for this season? What fuel can I use now instead of that, if there's an option to keep me going and whatnot? And so again, it's like revisiting yourself and returning to this conversation internally to constantly update and upgrade where you're at and what your intention is, so that it makes the most sense in this season, knowing that it's always constantly going to change.
You're touching my soul today. You're touching my soul because that just happened to me, right? So for the past 5 years, I've worked on this person said, I'm not making enough money. I gotta go make more money. I gotta go make more money. And then the same guy was like, I'm so proud of you. Like he saw all the things that I've been doing, and I'm just like, oh, this is not fueling me anymore. You know what's fueling me now? Wanting to buy my time back. I'm no longer in it for, yeah, I'm no longer in it to say, fuck you. I did what you thought I couldn't do. Now I'm just like, no, I'm in it because I'm in a peaceful space where I want to buy my time back. My season now is me buying my time back. My season before was probably revenge to say, so I can get to that point where I could say, fuck you. And now it's different. And I think understanding, like you said, what's gonna fuel you. Like it's gonna change and it's gonna be different. But damn, my change just happened 5 years later.
No, listen, I've had some cycles in my life that were like a decade. So I couldn't
Yeah.
see the cycle until it happened a couple times. I was like, "Wait a
Yeah.
minute." So it's like for some of us, it might be, a distance between when things happen and when we pick something up to when we can reevaluate or when we're ready, right? Ready,
Yeah.
willing, and able to shift or evolve. And it's okay. Like you said that before. And I think that that line is beautiful. For whatever it is, it's okay. If you're in debt right now, it's okay.
It's
Why?
okay.
Because you can find a way out if you want to, and you can stay in debt if you want to. It's up to you. Like if you whatever the thing is, and it's okay. Add it to the end.
Oh, I love that because I think we don't give us ourselves enough grace. And I always tell people, like, please give yourself grace because I'm actually the type of person who, if I don't sit back and say, Selma, you have done this, I will never give myself grace. But I think people believe that things happen so swiftly. And it's like, you haven't seen the hard fucking work Jacent has been doing for years. I have been doing for years. The favorite person that you have been following has been doing for years. It has taken time. You did not get your debt in 1 to 2 days. You're not going to get out of it in 2 months, maybe not even 2 years. Sometimes it took you 3 years to pay off your debt.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But the thing is,
So, yeah.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so grace is just important in like saying and having that. Oh my gosh, I preach having the honest conversation with yourself about just saying, look how far I've come, and I may not be where I want to be, but I know for sure I can get there.
Mm. When it comes to like, having paid off the debt and all that fun stuff, I think that one thing that I maybe don't say enough or maybe people don't hear me say is I made the goal, which was to become debt free. I created the timeline, which was I wanted to pay it off in 3 years, preferably. When I thought about it, I was like, it'd be cool to be debt free by 30 and be able
Mhm.
to spend the rest of my life, focusing on other things.
Yeah.
And then I let go of the outcome. And I think that that's where we have to focus is yes, be audacious, be ambitious, create wild goals, and then give yourself grace. What is a grace period? A grace period is flexibility. A grace period
Mhm.
is, what I mean, space. And so I think that when we create the vision and then we are so strict on it that it actually creates resistance in the ability to make it come into.
Mm.
So if I didn't pay my debt off for 5 years, I knew I'm going to be out of debt. I don't know
Yeah.
when it's gonna happen. I know it's gonna happen. So it don't happen until I'm 35, until I'm 45, until I'm 55. Like it's gonna happen,
It's gonna
and I'm
happen.
okay with it. But it would be really nice if I can get out
Mhm.
sooner. And because I had the space, I could play and explore and experiment to see what was possible. And I think that's probably the difference in my approach than like maybe what people see and think that they have to do in order to make progress.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I That was me saying, oh yeah, it has to be paid off in 2.5 years, 2.5 years. And it actually wasn't. It was like 2 years and like 8, 9 months. But at that 2.5 year mark, when I realized it wasn't gonna happen, then I really just said, but it's still gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's still gonna happen. Like I and I think you get to the point where it's just like, I'm still doing it like 30, 35, 40, 45. As long as I'm doing something that I have probably never seen in my life. Like no one in my family has paid off a certain amount of debt, or like I've never had someone say, yeah, this is what you're supposed to do, especially when it comes to money and outlining that. It was never that kind of conversation. So just saying like, I'm actually doing something that I've never seen done before, that is not easy, it's very difficult, but I don't necessarily need to always put like the strictest timeline on it. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, even when you say it like that, it's like if you didn't grow up with any example of how to do this thing, no frame of reference, no, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
maybe no support, but now you expect yourself to do it perfectly. Does that make logical sense? Like
Not at all.
I don't know about that, guys. Like again, like the lies we tell ourselves. I'm lying to
Yeah.
myself. I'm saying like I have to. I'm supposed to, and it's gosh, I get it on one end, and then at the same time, I'm like that's a lot of pressure. So it's like if I'm
Yeah.
the one that's supposed to set free my bloodline, Like that's kind of a lot of pressure. And
That's a lot.
if you operate well under pressure, I guess live your best life. But at the same time, it's like, I'm just gonna do everything that I can. I'm just gonna do,
Yeah.
like you said, you feel like you're not doing enough. Well, it makes sense because you're really passionate about, educating people
Yeah.
and making sure they're well informed. And if you had it your way, you would want everyone to have this information. That's
Yeah.
millions and billions of
Of
people.
people.
So yeah, if you probably, you know what I mean? Like, you probably haven't gotten to everyone yet, and
Yeah.
that's okay. Whatever you've done up to this point is amazing, And so I think
Yeah.
that when I think about it, because well, maybe it's more so of like being an entrepreneur or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
we have big problems we want to solve. Like, there's so
Huge. It's
huge.
crazy.
Yeah, so for me to try to go to sleep at night thinking I'm gonna finish my whole to-do list and, like, I've solved every Black woman, every woman of color's money problem in the world, like,
Yeah.
yeah, nah, girl, like, I'm doing my part, and I'm grateful
Yeah.
that there are different people doing their version of this work because I'm also not for everybody. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Oh,
So
I
it's
say
like
that all the time.
so it's like
I am not.
you're not doing enough because you're not
Yeah.
supposed to do it all.
Yeah.
I'm not doing enough because 'cause I'm
Oh.
not supposed to do it all. We're supposed to do it together. That's why we're on this podcast. That's why we uplift each other. That's why we refer each other to the people that we think will be a great fit because we can never do enough alone. You know what I mean?
Girl. Wow. You say things so eloquently. I'm just like, yeah, you're right. This is like a therapy session of like it's all things wrapped in one. And I just love how I can see how you use all of your skills collectively to like educate and to one thing I find very difficult that I see on the internet is that it's hard for influencers or personal finance creators to kind of meet people where they are when they're not there anymore. So like I still operate and talk to women who are making $30,000 even though I'm four times my income, right? Because I know what it feels like to be there. But to operate in that kind of space, I don't think it's easy. But understanding, yeah, we can't do everything, but collectively together, it's what's going to make the difference. But how has helping women changed your view set? Like, what have you gained by helping other women on their money mindset journey, on their debt free journey? Like, what has that done for you?
Oh my goodness. It makes me emotional, but it could be like postpartum hormones. It could just be the hormones. But gosh, it's been life-changing. I think I just posted it last night. I would not have guessed 6 years ago is when I started my money journey.
Mhm.
I would not have guessed 6 years ago that this is where I would be or this is what I would be doing. If someone told me, I'd be like, "Interesting." Yeah.
Yeah.
How did we get there? Because
Yeah.
money, you
Let me take the steps now.
girl. And so I think what it has done has made me more authentic and more brave because it's not easy to show up and do this work, right? We were talking about this before we hopped on
Yeah.
here. It's not easy to do anything. It's not easy to go to a 9 to 5. It's not easy to go to school. It's not easy to be a parent. It's not easy to be in a relationship. Like I think that this idea that, something is going to be easy breezy and like we're going to coast through it is a misconception that I've had to let go at some point. Like
Mhm.
thinking like, okay, well, I got to get rid of this 9 to 5 because I can't stand it. Well, I definitely as an entrepreneur have to do things that I don't feel like doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's like I'm not going to escape discomfort
Yeah.
or having to do things I don't like to do. But when I can remember like why am I doing this thing? So what's my fuel, right? I like start my
Yeah.
day looking at testimonials of like what people have been able to do somehow with my connection or support.
Mhm. So
Um
weird.
yeah, I'm like, I didn't do the stuff. You did it. But I guess
I say that all the time. I'm like,
I
I
was
was just kinda along for the ride, but
yeah, I was
you did
supporting.
it.
But I like to revisit those because I'm like, okay, this is why I have to do the uncomfortable stuff. This is why I have to
Yeah.
stretch myself. This is why I have to show up, even though I'm an introvert and like I'm very nervous about it. I literally have something in my hands right now that I'm like clicking and
Oh, gosh.
unclicking to channel my energy.
Oh.
I'm a little socially awkward in person and maybe online. That's probably why people like me. But if it were just up to me, I would still be selfish, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Serving and becoming an entrepreneur, specifically women of color, Black women, has helped me to become more selfless because it's not about me and what I feel like
Yeah.
and what I want. It's about, oh man, there's someone somewhere in the world that, because I went live today, had a breakthrough in their mindset, or feels a little less alone, or feels seen,
Yeah.
heard, or understood, has read a post or listened to a podcast episode. You might be listening right now. Send us a DM because we like to hear how what we do
Yes, we do.
helpful. Put a screenshot and share your takeaways. Like, as entrepreneurs, I think that the most fulfilling things that we get to see are the fruits of our labor in someone's journey. Even though we know we're not the ones that did it, but
Yeah.
maybe it was something that we said that unlocked something for you. Maybe it was something that, your planner, like
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my gosh, people have this planner that I put together and they're using it. And they're like,
Crazy.
the most fulfilling thing is seeing the fruits of your labor in someone else's life, because it is long hours and late nights and hitting your head against the wall. Like, is this really helping people? Is this working? Like,
Mm.
do I have the right approach? Like, there's a lot of questioning of yourself in the process. And after having a kid, I'm even more fired up about it, because I'm like, for anyone who wants to have healthy relationships, for anyone who wants to raise children in whatever way
Yeah.
possible, fostering, having the kids, surrogate, whatever, I want women to have the freedom and flexibility. And this is what makes me emotional,
Yeah.
um, to do life the way they want to do life and not feel
Oh,
like
wait,
they have
no, just stop there, please. That was that to do life the way you want. That makes me emotional because I think I'm finally in a space saying, I'm finally about to be 33 and doing life the way I want to do life. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no, that's
that
it.
was too good to add to any other sentence, but please continue.
No, and for everyone that looks different. And it's
Yeah.
okay, right? And that's okay. So don't
Okay.
look at someone else on the internet and see their aesthetic house and see, what, or you see whatever it is. Like, never compare your journey and your life to someone else's, because you never know all of the ins and outs of it. And you probably don't actually want what they have anyway, to some extent. Like, what does your life look like in its greatest,
Yeah.
its greatest unfolding? And for me, it looks a certain way, and for other people it looks different. And so I'm grateful I get to do life the way I want to, and I just want other women to be able to have the same opportunity.
Oh my gosh, that was so fucking amazing. But I feel kind of the same way about bitch, I'm budgeting is no longer about Selma. Like it has grown far past me and it is now its own community. And on the days that I don't feel like showing up and I do show up and people are like, oh, this helped me, this helped me. That's my fuel right now. I always tell people I'm very honest in saying I don't feel that great when I have my own milestones in life. But oh, if you tell me you saved your first $100 ever, I am hype for you. Like, and that's it for me. It's building that community of women to say, yeah, I might be here, but I know that I can be somewhere else. Not just because, I've seen Selma do it or I've seen Gisette do it or I've seen so many other women do it, but that they're actually giving me practical tools and steps to say, it's it's okay. I think that's like our thing for this conversation. It's okay where I'm at, but I know I can do better. But bitch, I'm budgeting is no longer, it's not even it's just, it's far outgrown me. And I know just Scent Gems has far outgrown just you. It's your community is huge. The way you pour into people, in such a transparent and like selfless, like you said, like a selfless way is refreshing because I see your testimonies all the time and I'm like, if I can feel the message through and I don't even know these people, I know she can feel it because she has connected with these people and these women. And just to say, like, we were just kind of along the ride for your journey. We might have given you that little motivation, that little tip or two that might have helped. But I always tell people it was you. I was kind of just on the ride saying, "Oh no, maybe try this or you can do this or yeah, you got this even when you feel like you don't have it." But it's all you, baby.
Hmm. Yeah. So that's it. That's what it's about. And I think also having women see other women um, working in tandem and in community. You know what I mean? Like I love when I
Yeah.
see like you going live with someone else. I think it was during the holidays or something, and you were doing like
Oh,
Vlogmas
finance
or
minutes where I was just going live
oh
with
yes,
like everybody. Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, "I am here for this," like, and gosh, it's the internet is a weird place, but I see myself as a student, like, I see
Yeah.
myself as constantly learning from everyone else that's around me, even my own students, I learn from them, and so
Yeah.
I was watching you go live, and I think it's really powerful to see women working with women and just, people in general, but that we can support each other, that we can collaborate, that we can cheer each other on, that we can share information, you know what I mean, and like
Mhm.
and get rid of some of the gatekeeping, and so I think that for women to see other women doing that with each other is really important as well, because I think so many people feel alone in their journey,
Yeah.
like they're the only one and they don't have people in their immediate life maybe that are
Yeah.
focused in this area in the same way, so they don't have people they can have conversations like this with. And so if you can't have that conversation with your friends in your neighborhood, it's not that you need to get rid of them. It's just you need to find out where you can have those conversations, which is like why I love your community, and I love seeing
Yeah.
like all your
I love
people
yours.
like their questions and like you know what I mean, like all the fun stuff that you've got going on, is that you have to find that place because you
Yeah.
can it's both, and you can have the relationships with people in your life that are wherever they're at in their journey right now, and still have a place where you feel supported and can talk about money and can learn and be new. I just want more women to know that they're not alone, and
Yeah.
that there's places, pockets in the world where they can connect. And your people may not be in your city. Your people, I'm
Mhm.
like, are you still in Brooklyn? My husband's from Brooklyn, so I'm
Yeah.
like, when I come to New York, let me come and find you, right? Because the internet
Yes.
the internet has made it so that we can connect with people all over, and I think
Yeah.
that's really, really impactful too.
I know. It's very true. And we have really great communities. So what tip would you give someone who wants to actually build a community and make sure that they have just like a solid foundation of saying, this is what it should be like to have a
I think that you want to make sure that you take the time up front to be really clear with yourself what your intention is.
yeah.
And 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 if you're really committed to that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And what it would look like, what is your exit plan? Is there you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
need to go into things succession planning. That's one of the most amazing things that I think I
Oh.
heard. I think Amber Aziza mentioned when I was at a training last year or the year before. And like, what is the succession plan? And are you really like, what are you in it for? Because
Yeah.
to say you want to have a community means that you want to in some way be a leader, but at the same
Mhm.
time you also want to be a student. You have to be able to embody both, because your students are going to teach you or your community members are going to teach you. You are not like the only thing that comes to mind is like God, right? Like
Yeah.
you are not the end all be all in your
Yeah.
community. So you have to be willing to flex into leadership and flex out of it as well. And so,
Mhm.
and allow other people to be empowered in your community to have a voice and share. And so, again, what's the intention and what's your reasoning? Because it's a lot. It's like starting a family. So you
Mhm.
do some family planning when you say you want to start a community, because listen, your kids
Listen.
who knows what, are you in it for the long haul? Are you doing it because you want to make money? Which making money is not a bad thing,
Mhm.
but you have to understand, again, the intention and your willingness to do this. Is this a short-lived thing, or is this something that you are in for the long haul? I used to work as a
Yeah.
therapist and have a private practice, and I also was doing, my online stuff. I got pregnant and I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do both. I don't think I'm going to be able to
Yeah.
continue to do both with a baby by my choosing, because it's
Yeah.
not the way I want to do it. And so I had to make the decision of like, okay, if we're not going to do both, which one are we going to do?
Yeah.
And for me, it was choosing my community, because when I thought about it sustainably in the long run, if my life was about one thing professionally, if I stood for one thing 30 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, well, what would that be? The honest truth for me was that I would be doing this work. And
Yeah.
I went into a whole bunch of debt to get this degree.
Yeah.
then I paid off a whole bunch of debt on this degree. And so it was like really having to shed an identity around like, well, I'm certified in this, so this is what I have to do. No, like I
Ooh.
can let that go and move into a whole different identity and move into a whole different version of myself. Um, and give myself to my community
Yeah.
and allow myself to become who I need to for this community. So that may be a deep way of talking about like how do you start a community. Generally, if you want to start a community, okay, start talking about your experience, share your experience. Who is it that you resonate? But I think a lot of people are chasing vanity metrics sometimes.
Ooh,
Um,
yes.
and think about if we're talking about numbers, because if that's a thing, right?
Mhm.
Think about the capacity of of a space that can hold people. So when I
Yeah.
think about numbers, if I even a community that's not online, let's say your community is even in person,
Mhm.
one person in your community, you could easily fit in a room together unless you're in
Yeah.
a closet. And then you think 5 people, 10 people, think about putting those people in a room. So when someone has 100 followers or whatever,
Mhm.
and they're like, I don't have a lot of followers, 100 people have made the choice
Yeah.
to see and be a part of whatever it is that you are doing. If you were to put 100 people I wouldn't be able to fit 100 people in my house.
Yeah.
We'd have
Me
to go somewhere.
neither. Gotta
Right.
go somewhere else.
If we were in person, we wouldn't be able to fit all those people in this place. So you have to think about your community, I think, in that way and get away from the vanity metrics, because I think that shoots a lot of people in the foot. Like
Yeah.
I can sit here and say comparison is the thief of joy. And I've personally experienced it when I look at other people and I'm like, oh, well, look at that. And look what they're doing and this and that and blah, blah, and and I'm like, nah, girl, like that's not, do I actually want that? Like, do I
Yeah, yeah.
even actually want what I see, or is this just this part of me that is coming up that I need to have a conversation with? And so you need to make your community, like my thing is, how can I go deeper with the people that I already have in my realm, as opposed to
Mhm.
thinking like, well, I want to serve millions of people. Yes, I do, but I'm only ever going to serve millions of people because I served the 1, 3, 5 people that were in my circle of influence right here first
Yes.
really well. So that's what I'll say.
I will say I don't think you're like, "Oh, I'm going deep," but I think it's perfect because on surface level, I think people just say, "Yeah, you just need to do this, do this, do this, do this." But it's like, do you even like you said, do you want to do it, right? When it comes to my community, I'm the first person to say I don't know everything. So I always say what I do not know, I outsource.
Mm-hmm.
So because I've had you in my community, like, and y'all, when it comes to people and when it comes to Black women, I pay them their rate. Let me just say that I pay them what they ask, and I don't try to like barter it. It's what you want. It's your like you're bringing me the information. But I always tell women like what I don't know, I outsource. So I don't keep gatekeep. I know Jacinth is great at having these kind of conversations. So I want her to speak to my community of people. I step back as the leader, quote unquote, and I put myself in a student perspective. I Every person who comes on, whether they're talking about mindset, taxes, investing, I become the student in my own community. And I sit back and I say, well, what am I learning right now? Right? Not, oh, let me try to interject and add my 2 cents in, but just being a student and being able to have that flexibility to say, okay, I can lead right now. And when I can't lead, understanding that I can find someone who can.
Mm,
And I
mm.
think that's what it's all about. It's not about those little, like you said, the vanity part may seem well, the saying like I have 1,000 people in my community, 2,000 people. But I'm like, the experience I feel with just 5 people telling me that they've made a change has me on a high for like days. I don't even know if I can fully sustain if I had to
Yeah,
hear that 100,000 times.
you're growing your
I will
capacity, and that's
combust.
why. Well, right, and I think that's why the our growth is in correlation to what we can hold. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like our growth is in correlation to us being able to expand to hold more.
yeah,
So when we're over here thinking like, oh well, my community only has X amount of people or whatever. Well, are you doing everything to the best of your ability with
yeah,
those people? You know what I mean? Do you have the capacity right now to take on double that or triple that
yeah.
right now? I've had the issue of things growing very quickly and things getting real crazy real quick
Real
because
quick.
The growth was too fast, okay?
Yeah.
And so there's another side to it when we're looking at that, and I think Les Brown talks about, um, bamboo. And when you
Yeah.
plant bamboo, it's under the soil. You can't see it for a very long time. I think it's like 5 years, bruh, that you have to keep
Wow.
on watering the bamboo.
Yeah.
So for 5 years, you just watering dirt. You just
Yeah.
watering dirt, like, I don't even know what it's doing under
What's
there.
happening down
But
there?
listen, and this is not how Les Brown tells the story, but but once it breaks ground, it grows like 90 feet within 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
there's also growing slow sometimes, or quote unquote what seems like growing slow, because the water is drawing back like a tsunami, because the
Yeah.
slingshot is being pulled back. But when that tension gets released, when the water from the tsunami comes back, it's a
Yeah.
wave,
It's a
okay? And
wave.
so that's also why you see certain people, let's say online or in life or whatever, it seems like this overnight success is typically 10 years in the making,
Yeah.
15 years in the making. You know what I mean? There's all this stuff that they were doing in the background that we're just now seeing them break
Yeah.
ground, and that they're
Yeah.
being catapulted because of the watering of the soil for 5 years straight before it
Yeah.
ever, came to the top. So,
I love that you said it because I'm just like, I had this idea of, yeah, I want my community to be this many people. And I'm like, I'm at capacity already because it's like, I'm not just here like, oh, yeah, we're going to do whatever it is. Like, I really engulf myself in my community. I'm like, I don't think I could do this with another, even if I can't, I don't think I can add another 20 women. Like, I think I'll drown at that point. But understanding, like you said, cultivate with the people you have now. And as you grow, you make the changes. And I'm starting to realize, okay, I need a little bit more help. You can't do it all by yourself. But not locking in on a number, but locking in on basically the value that you bring to your community is so important. I'm like, I can't, I know, and I'm honest with myself to say I can't do it with another 20 people. Like I
mhm.
can't even add probably another 5 people. Like we are at capacity because I am at capacity and I
Mhm.
want to remain my best self to the women that I'm serving. Because if I don't, then what's the point of my community if I'm not remaining my best
Mm,
self? So I
mm.
need to, it's not about my number anymore. It's just about how can I be my most impactful and how
Yeah.
can I make my biggest change to the women that I'm currently serving. And then as things grow, like you said, you'll learn to build up that capacity and things will expand. But girl, I'm like, whew, I love y'all and it's a lot. But the results I see being able to be consistent with the people that I have now is my high, is my
Mhm.
celebration every single time. And like you said, I'm just like, no, we're here along for the ride. You're the one really doing the work.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
constant
So
quality
yeah.
control, quality control all the time.
Yes. So before we get out of here, because I've taken up your time, but this was such an amazing conversation. What is next for Just Sense?
What is next? No, I'm kidding. I I really am focused on personally just being present in my relationships, taking really good care of
Mhm.
myself, my family, and my friends, and, professionally with my community, streamlining and subtracting actually, like making things
Yeah.
simple. And so my focus is to serve my students really well and focus heavily on my community. And so I wrote a book, but I'm like, each thing that you come up with is its own business to some extent.
It is.
So at least I feel like. So having my community is its own thing. It requires,
Mhm.
I'm doing the job of like 20 people. Like 20 people, this is like could be a whole
The whole
organization coming.
team. Yeah.
And so that is enough work in and of itself. I wrote a book last year now because it's 2023.
Yay.
And a book, a physical product, I had never been in physical products before, is its own thing. Okay, guys. I took down the link. I said, don't order the book from me,
Did
bruh.
you?
Sending it to you. You can get it from Amazon or you can order it from
Yeah.
the bookstore. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I will send it to you closer to the holidays, but it's its own
Yeah.
business. So I'm like, okay, the book's written and now it's available and people can get access to it, which
Yeah.
is great. But that's not the thing that I want to spend the majority of my time, energy, and effort on. I'm going all in on YouTube.
Yay!
So anyone who wants to find me there at To Sense Gems, that's where I will be hanging out,
I
mostly.
love it.
And then I'm on Instagram. So YouTube, Instagram, my community, subtracting all the other noise and everything else to really streamline things so that I can, execute at my highest capacity and serve really well and teach. I'm really excited to teach on YouTube. I've had my podcast, which has been fun, but it's gonna be fun because I like to
Yeah.
like draw on boards and like
Yeah.
I'm such a nerd that I'm like, "Ooh, I can't wait to teach." So, that's what I'm really focusing on, and we'll see what other fun things come up, that life has for me, but that's what I see right now.
I love that, and I love that for you, and we need to get her to her 1,000. You're like, what? Maybe like 30 something away. You're like mad close, girl. Like,
I'm close. Well, and
yeah,
and it'll happen when it happens. It's going to and
it's
I do
gonna
the math.
happen.
I'm like, if one person a day subscribes, like I know I have a family or friend or somebody who ain't subscribed yet. I'm like, if I send one text message a day, right? That's how I break my goals down. Then in 365 days, I'll have 365
And
more
65
subscribers,
people.
right? And so it's like,
Yep.
instead of thinking about how can I go viral, it's what relationships or who do I know that this will be really impactful for? If you want to
Oh.
start a community, you need to start right where you are with the people right in your sphere of
Mm.
influence. I do my best when I have the bandwidth on Instagram to send a DM to anyone who follows me within that day with a
Mm.
voice note. So I used to send a text. And then I
Yeah.
started sending voice notes. And people are like, "Oh my God, you're here. Wow, this is you. You're talking to me." And I'm like, yeah, I'm a human on the other side of this, device.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun because that's an instant way to start building a relationship. And I'm not
Mhm.
reaching out to them because I'm trying to sell something. Because really, I don't know if you need what I got in the first place.
Exactly.
I really want to know who's in my internet space. Like I treat my internet space like my real estate, like my house. So if you come
Yeah,
to my house, I want to greet you. I want to make sure you get what
I
you need
love
while you're
that.
here. Like what's your expectation? Maybe this is a referral or a resource, or I'm just cheering you on if there's nothing else I got to offer you. Okay.
Wow.
And so I think when you're building community, people are thinking big. I think you need to think like what's right in front of you.
Right now, like, what's right in front of you?
Have you DM'd or have you talked to everyone in your community and had a
Yeah.
real conversation? And it may take a rotation depending on how your
Oh, it
community
definitely does.
because you may not get to everybody all at once. I don't get to send welcome emails or welcome DMs to 100% of people,
Yeah.
but as a way of building relationships with folks, that's what I do my best to do, and that's what's worked for me and helped me to know like who's here, who because
Yeah.
who's here. Because I also feel like I'm an empath, and I'm like the way that people are thinking about you and whatever intention and energy they're
Yeah.
realizing when they're thinking about you is it can affect you. And so
Mhm.
I'm like, who's here and what you doing in my
Mhm.
part? So I
Yes. I love that because I'm the same way, and I think people don't think I'm a real person. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a real person," because I usually do polls, and I'll ask people like, "Oh, did you save or did you not save?" And all the people who usually say no, I send them a message, and they're like, "You're really in my inbox?" Yes, we're family now, so I'm definitely in your inbox. Why have you not put any money aside? Because
yeah,
your
I love it.
stories say you have money because I've checked.
Whoop. Oh my god, I love it. I love it.
But I want to thank you for showing up, for just being just sense. Like you are, I know you said, oh, and I'm socially awkward too. I know you're like, oh, I'm socially awkward, I'm introverted. I'm those same things, but you show up in such a way that we don't see it. And I know you have your thing in your hand. And I think that's another way of saying it's gonna be okay. We're all not perfect. We all have our thing. But I want to thank you because I think this conversation, I know this conversation was needed. And I feel like our motto today was, it's okay.
It's
It's
okay.
okay. So I want to end by saying thank you, but I also want to end by telling everyone out there that it's okay. So we're going to make things happen, and they'll happen when they're going to happen, and let it fall into place.